The Wuji hand just came out. It's a 20 degree of freedom robotic hand that's compact and aesthetic. I'll be diving into the details of the actuation and mechanism of this robotic hand and see how each degree of freedom works. All right, let's get started. So here I'm visualizing the robotic hand in Arvis. You can see this is the model that they've provided. All the frames here you can see are the different degrees of freedom. So we could go ahead and actuate it here. You can see we could randomize it. So this will cause the fingers to just set it at random positions. But here on the left, you could actually see the range of motions for each finger. So if you're new here, my name is Kevin. I have a lot of resources on robotics and AI on my channel, so make sure to check it out. I also have a course bundle on my website at kevinwithrobotics.com. Finger 1 is the thumb. You can see it goes from negative 0.04 all the way up to 1.6 radians. So that's joint 1. Here we have joint 2 that goes from negative 0.1 all the way up to 0.9 here. So this is a quite bit of range of motion. This is joint 3 here, goes from negative 0.4 all the way up to 1.6. And then, sorry, that was joint 3. And then joint 4 here is negative 0.4 all the way up to 1.6. And for finger 2, these are going to be the same for all of the other 4 fingers. These 4 fingers have the same. So I'll just go over one of them. But if I come back here, you can see how this one moves. So finger 2, we have joint 1. So this one goes from negative 0.3 all the way up to 1.6. And then joint 2, negative 0.4 all the way up to 0.4. So that one has a little bit of more limited motion. And then this finger here, if I rotate it, you can see a little bit better. If I move it again, this one was joint 3 here. And then finally we have joint 4. So that one also goes from negative 0.4 all the way up to 1.6. So nice thing about these fingers is that unlike cable-driven ones that's usually coupled, these ones you can move each one individually. So that gives you a lot more flexibility in terms of how you want to control this robotic hand here. So you could kind of zoom in and see, this is obviously a simplified STL file. So they're missing some of the actuation features, but we'll go over some of the images that we saw in the video so we could dive into what might be how some of the finger actuation works. So here's a summary of the first finger or the thumb. We talked about the joint limits here. This is laid out right here. We also have effort limits that they've set as well as velocity limits. You can see that it makes sense that joint 1, which is closer to the base, has a much higher effort cap because the lower, the more torque that you need. And then you could see that there's an inverse relationship with velocity. As we move further away from the hand, there's a higher velocity limit. So it makes sense that you'll want to have that sort of relationship as you move away from the base of the hand to the tooltip. So here for finger 2, which will be the same for fingers 3, 4, and 5, you can see that these here are the limits for the actuation. And what you'll notice is that the effort has a much higher limit than the thumb. And that also makes sense because if you were to use, normally when you're carrying things, you use your 4 fingers and your thumb is usually for assistance. So it makes sense why the fingers 2, 3, 4, and 5 have a much higher effort, which we see is at 1 for the base of the joint. So if we take a look at some of the clips of the hand, you can see that this one is actually a render of the hand, but you can see very clearly this 4-bar linkage here. So this is how it does the actuation for the finger to bend like this. And if we look closely here, we could see that there's probably some motors embedded in this finger here. They don't really have any patterns that go into detail of this hand specifically, but they do have some things which I'll show you in a little bit that I think might give some clues into how this works. But if we take a look here, this is a zoom in at the joint here. So this is blown up. One potential option that it might have here could be a bevel configuration. So you can imagine, now the way this might be configured is you can imagine right here, if we have, there could be the bottom of the bevel might look something like this, where you have one bevel here, and then you could have another one somewhere, probably in the center here or somewhere on the outside, but it could be somewhere here where it meets up. I kind of messed up drawing here, but you kind of get the point. So there might be one axis here that's helping this bottom one rotate where the motor might be attached, and then it might cause another rotation along this axis. So that could be one potential configuration of this bevel gear. And if we go on to the next slide, we could see in this configuration, we know that another possible way to transmit the rotation, assuming if the motor is along the finger, could be something like a worm gear. So if we look at worm gears, typically what you have is you have one, usually is this part that's called the input shaft. And then we have the bigger one that's going to be the output. So if we go on and take a look again at the image, you can see that sometimes you could have really compact worm gears that could fit into such configuration. So if we know that this is the input and that's the output, we know that the output has to be somewhere here. So it could be possible that, you know, there might be something like this where there's a main big gear here, and then there might be something that's driving it. So just based on looking at this, it's probably not likely that the part that's driving it is horizontal. It might be easier to have it vertical, come down here next to it. So if you were to look at it from sideways, you might have the finger might look like this, where this is a pivot. You could have a worm gear here, and then you have the part that's driving it on the side. So as this part rotates, then this part will rotate. So that could be one possible configuration, but then the tricky part is how do you turn this part? So you might need to have some actuator that's spinning here, that's rotating this shaft. So I would say this configuration, just based on the sizes of the gears, is probably not what they're doing, is probably a little bit more complicated. So I would say is probably not as likely. But if we take a look at some of these patterns, you can see here that this one is not specifically on the robot hand, but surprisingly, you can see this is from their company, Wuji Technology. And if you read through their patent, they mention a lot about having miniature high-performance robots. So you could tell that even if these exact drawings aren't applied to the robot hand that we see, there could be hints to how the design could have been made. So you can see they mentioned here things like speed reducer, the stator, the rotor, all of which could be parts of the hand just in disguise, or presented in more of a generic way. So you can see in this patent here, they laid out exactly how the structure of this planetary gear is. So this tells me that it's possible that there could be a combination of using planetary gear inside the finger. So for example, we kind of drew out the bevel gear, but it's possible that inside their finger, maybe down here, one of these sections here is actually a planetary gear that's sitting inside here that's driving it. So I think that could be a potential configuration. And then, you could have very easily your bevel gear up here that's then driving it, the finger that's, I think this should be drawn this way, but there could be this kind of configuration where you have two different gears to, one to increase the planetary gearbox part is the one that's going to increase the gear ratio, and the bevel gear would most likely just be used if it's not 1-to-1. It might have a slight increase, but based on the space constraint, I think it's probably going to be close to 1-to-1, or if not, just a few ratios of torque conversion. But the main point of the bevel gear here is to convert the direction of rotation. So if we take a look here, they also have some other patents here describing how the encoders will fit. So the way they have it set up is, if we go back here, you can see that they describe an inner runner type of motor, meaning that the magnets are on the inside, whereas some of the more popular brushless motors nowadays have it on the outside. So this configuration here, you can see how they've stacked up some of the main bearing components here on the top and the middle. But I could see how some of this could be the structure of some of the main axis connecting the rest of the part. And then we have the housing here that could be, the outside of the finger that we were looking at previously. So coming here, you can see this is the encoder setup. It describes how all of this is connected. And then here they have another pattern too. It's called the executor and robot comprising same. And this dives into some details of some of the actuator configuration and possibly a way to have it inside a link. So I would say, even though it's not likely, it's not impossible that they could have fit a planetary gear inside one of the joints itself, but that would require the joint to be super compact, and I think that might be pretty difficult to implement. So just based on the sizes that we're dealing with, I think most likely this planetary gear that they've presented in their patent is most likely somewhere inside of here, because to squeeze it in here, or if we look at this image here, to squeeze a planetary gear in here, I would say is probably going to be much harder just based on the space. So I would say very likely it's going to be somewhere in here. So overall, I would say my take on this hand is that it's quite impressive and compact and also pretty aesthetic. So considering the simplicity of this design, because usually robot hands with cables are much more difficult to maintain and troubleshoot if there's issues. So I like how they're able to make everything what they call direct drive, even though there's probably going to be gearboxes inside of here. But overall, I would say this design is pretty good. So it might be worth something to try out. Okay, so if you found this video helpful, give a like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. And make sure to check out my latest video on humanoid robot leg designs or my robot arm project. All right, later.